Hello, this session is about laser protection advisor audits in the UK, and we're going to be talking specifically here about signage and access control. So here's a room diagram of a typical operating theatre. You can see the operating table in the middle here and the rest of the layout of the room. And you can see examples of the types of warning signs and lights that we've got in place in the theatre. So we'll look in more detail at the actual contents of the signs as we go through the slides. So for a double set of doors here, these are plastic signs, and you can see they would be at eye level in the middle of the double doors. A single door obviously has just the one sign, and an interesting thing here, the 1.5 door, where we have a single plastic sign on the larger door set. So the lights themselves, the laser lights are either side of double doors at eye level in preference. If it's really impossible to put the laser lights either side of the door, you can look at whether they would be suitably placed above the door, but obviously they're not nearly as visible in that location. You will see it in some locations where it's been put up there. On the single door, then it's important to get your single set of lights on the correct side of the door opposite the hinges, because that's the way somebody will be facing as they open the door. So on the 1.5 door sets here, you can see we've used 2 sets of warning lights, one either side, and again on the single door here, the lights are on the opposite side to the hinges at eye level. So that's a well laid out theatre with the warning lights and signs in position. So there's an example of a warning sign that you might see on the door. It's a plastic sign typically. Important wording here: laser controlled area, and the standard laser symbol. Some information about the type of laser and the risk. So it's a class 4 laser. That immediately tells us that it is extremely hazardous to the eyes, may damage the skin, and also may be an ignition hazard, may actually set fire to things. It tells us what the wavelength of the laser is, so that's a green frequency doubled YAG laser there. So that will give us some information about what kind of glasses we need to use. That's in the second yellow box down on the left hand side there. And then on the right hand side, the red instructions: authorised persons only to enter the area and not to enter unless you're wearing eye protection. So this would mean people should have on maybe a shelf outside the theatre some 532 nanometer appropriate eyewear available, which they can put on before they enter the theatre. The name of the laser protection supervisor is at the bottom there, plus details of how to contact them by telephone. So in the event of an emergency, an incident perhaps, it's easy to find out who the laser protection supervisor is and how to contact them. Onto the warning lights. So that's a fairly standard warning light there. The yellow controlled area laser section should be illuminated at all times when the laser is powered up, so it won't necessarily be firing, but there will be power to the laser. That tells us it's prepared to use, and therefore the area is a controlled area. And the red section here, we're suggesting a change of text: do not enter unless wearing eye protection, which would match the plastic signs that are on the doors. So the red section may only be illuminated when the laser is actually firing, but in some cases that could be on all the time, and that would effectively mean that nobody enters the theatre at any time. And certainly if you've got this text here, do not enter unless wearing eye protection, you would want that red section to be displayed all of the time. This is an industrial socket to provide electrical power to the laser. So the advantage of using one of these things is that you can link that directly to the warning lights. So when the laser is powered up and ready to go, the lights are automatically switched on, and it saves people from having to remember to turn them on during a laser session. Of course, if that's not possible to wire it in that way, the lights can be turned on via a switch on the wall, but that would have to be included in the risk assessment and in the local rules to remind people you absolutely must turn the lights on before you start using the laser. The other advantage of this is you need to fit the corresponding electrical plug to the laser itself, which would stop it being used in rooms which haven't been checked for laser safety. So you could only really use it in a room with this kind of plug, and with an appropriate design that would only be the operating theatre that you've designed for safe laser use, or indeed another controlled laser area. That's an example of a magnetic lock on a door. So again, these can be linked to the laser so that when the laser is fired up, the doors are automatically locked. A safety system could be in place, so break glass to enter the controlled area if you need to do so in an emergency. For example, there's a cardiac arrest in the room, so the cardiac team can get in quickly. Not everybody uses these, but it's a nice system to use to prevent people from coming in. People often will not use an interlock system on doors to theatres, so this would be a system where if you open the door, the laser automatically stops firing. That's not often considered safe in an operating theatre environment because you may be using the laser to control bleeding, for example, so you don't want that to stop if someone opens the door during the procedure. So if you haven't got a magnetic lock on the door, you may have a physical lock, and in situations where the theatre are insistent that they can't have a lock on the door, you can use signs and lights and some kind of physical barrier across the door, which will really stop people from entering the laser room, controlled area, or the theatre during a laser session. Thank you.